Hey, everybody, it's Alzay Calhoun with Covenant Consultant. Thank you for making time to be on today's Facebook Live. We have just been dealing with some real technical difficulties here. I was, just for the sake of those who also do Facebook Lives, I was here. I could see my preview. Everything was fine. I press go, right? I get a 3, 2, 1 countdown. I welcome you, and it shuts down. And I have no idea why. There's nothing flashes or blinks or tells me that there was a problem. So technology, it is what it is. You get better as you go. I'll try my best to look out for this in advance and try to fix it in advance. What do you do, right? So all you can do is just keep going. All you can do is just keep working and do the best you can. So thank you again for making time to be here, especially if you're joining now late, because nature of the beast. Please confirm that my audio is coming through, just to make sure before I get too deep into today's content that you can hear me and I can hear you, or I can hear you, that you can hear me, and then I can see the chat stuff. I'm getting my notes together. There's some notes that I have already prepared for today's conversation, and those notes are. So if this is the first time that you've seen a Facebook Live from this group, the Facebook group is called Marketing Leaders Lab. The purpose of the group is to service those who sell marketing services. So in marketing today, there are tons of different types of services, tons of different types of expertise. And you as the business owner have more responsibility than just being the guy or the lady who sells marketing. There are other responsibilities that you have, and you've got to design your business, design your company, design your firm, design your agency in such a way that is beneficial to you and those you serve. In short, there's got to be more going on than just the marketing. And what is that conversation? What is your responsibility as the leader of that company, et cetera, et cetera? I like that conversation. I believe that the better leader you are, the better business you will run, the more value you add to your clients, and the more revenue you'll generate in the end. But if you're only focusing on this thing called marketing, then there's a lot of value that you won't offer your clients. Now, actually, today's conversation is related to that directly. So Emily is here. Great. Audio and video are fine. Shelby's here. Good afternoon, Shelby. Good afternoon. By the way, there's a thread in the Facebook group that I owe a response to. I asked for some feedback on a conversation that I may have gotten wrong. And I owe some feedback on that. So I will. So Shelby has reminded me because Shelby responded to that thread. And I'm going to make sure that I put some good thoughts in there actually soon after this content is over. So we'll do that. Okay, so today's conversation, today's kind of story is I am telling you that you are more than a marketer. That's the summary of today's Facebook Live. You are more than a marketer. And I want to tell you a personal story that I think will help highlight that. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get to work, shall we? So, Emily, let's start with the first agenda item. I want to tell you about this conversation that I actually had today. There's the latest iteration in this story occurred today. I talked to a prospective client today, and let me kind of give you the backstory here. So this is someone that I have a personal relationship with. We did work together almost 10 years ago at this point. So we know each other. And he's got a new thing that he's trying to start. This person happens to be a sports coach. And so he wants to start a sports training academy here in the local area. All right. So his skills are not an issue. He's a qualified coach, experienced coach, not an issue whatsoever. But now he's trying to build this business. So we had a conversation earlier this year. I think it was somewhere around February. We sat down. Okay. We sat down together one-on-one. We sat down, we met, at a local Starbucks, and we had the conversation about what it was he was trying to do. At that point, what he had was ideas. So he had ideas, right? So he wanted to talk through his ideas. Alzay, I want to start my own company. I'm thinking about doing A or B or C or D. Now, the reason why I have to frame this as ideas, these are the kinds of conversations I encourage my clients to avoid. These broad-scoped, unclear, what are we talking about today kinds of conversations. I work diligently with my clients to help them avoid these kinds of conversations. In this situation, we've got someone who I know personally. So, I bend my rule, if you will. I flex my rule because we have a personal relationship. I've known him for a long time. So part of this conversation is just catching up. Just two people catching up. All fine. Okay. I still have boundaries. Here, but we're in this case, I'm meeting in person. Great. So I'm meeting in person. We have a conversation. He tells me about what he's got going on. Now, again, these are ideas. So he's got thing 1 he could do, thing 2 he could do, thing 3 he could do, thing 4 he could do. His thoughts are all over the place. Okay. Sanity check for you. Have you ever sat down with someone who wants to talk with you about their ideas? Hey, I have some ideas. You work in marketing, John or Beverly or Sue or Jonathan. You work in marketing. I got a few ideas I want to bounce off of you. I want to get your feedback on, right? I want to pick your brain about my ideas. Those are all phrases that make me want to curl up and scream. All of them. Okay. So has this ever happened to you, right? Of course it has, because that's the nature of being in this business. Of course it's happened to you. Okay. So now I'm having this conversation. He tells me about all of what he's trying to do, and I think about it for a little bit, right? I kind of sit, got my notepad out, and I'm kind of thinking through things. So Emily, let's go to number 2 here. So he tells me about this breadth of things that he's trying to get done, much like I explained to you all, and I say to my clients directly, and we work on directly. We can't do all of those things. Sounds glorious. At some point, I'm sure they're all possible. But sir, given your situation, with all of what you told me, what you do and don't do, what you can and can't do, what you know and don't know, you can't do all that stuff today. Let's figure out some way to step our way into what you're trying to do. So hey, Jack. So here's what I said to him pretty directly. I said, what makes the most sense for what you're trying to do is this. Not this, not that, this. This makes the most sense. And here is how you should go about executing on that. Or let me say that another way. Here's what you need to do if you're going to execute on this. Here's what you need to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you'd like my help executing this, not that, not this, not the huge thing. If you want my help executing this, here is what I'm prepared to do for you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Here's the cost of that. So we dialogued on that sum. Now he's a potential client. I told you he's a sports coach. He does sports stuff. He doesn't do business stuff. So in this conversation, who's the business expert? Me. In this conversation, who's the marketing expert? Me. So as I tell him all of what I just said, here's what I recommend you do. Here's what has to be done to pull that off. If you want my help to do that, here's what it costs. Bang, 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 bang. What do you want to do about that? So I present that to him, and he begins to ask me questions outside of this block. He says, well, I'll say, well, what about that thing? Or this thing? Or this thing? I heard this other thing is a good idea. And I've also seen this thing. Alzay, when I drove up in the driveway, because he said that to me, as I was driving up in the driveway, I saw this option. What about all those? Remember that boundaries conversation? Here comes a boundary. I said, I appreciate all those things exist. Those don't fit you. If you want to do this, here's what I recommend you do. Here's how that plays out. Here's how I'm prepared to help you. I didn't talk to him about those other opportunities. I know they're out there. I know they sound really, really clever. And we could have had a really good conversation about all those other opportunities. But in this conversation, I'm the business expert, right? He came to me because he needs some help. So I need to tell him what's required in order to get his thing done. Because in this situation, I'm the expert. I didn't ask him about sports. He's a sports expert, right? He would tell me in that conversation. But right now we're in my world. And so in my world, I got to tell you what's required to do what you're trying to do. It's my job to tell you what is required to fix your problem. That's why we're sitting here. Okay, let's continue. So then we have that, right? And I cut off the extra. So Emily, let's move to number 3. So what I've offered him is a set scope, a set time frame, and a set price for getting his problem solved. It's right here in front of him. He can do it or not do it. It's up to him. I hold no judgment on his choice. But there's no negotiating and vetting and 100 proposals, right? Do it or not. You want it fixed or no? Okay. So he decides he doesn't want to go with the option I've presented. Totally fine. We end up having some email exchange a little later. And he says, Alzay, I'm trying to get a website done. More or less, that's what he says. I'm trying to get a website done. I say, I don't do websites. But if you want a website done, I got someone. Actually, there's 2 people I want to recommend you to, person A or person B. I said, I prefer you work with person A. They can really help you get this problem solved. Person B can do some of this, but it's, not the best fit. Person A is more expensive because they're streamlined. They are efficient. They can execute at a high level. Person B is less expensive, but those are the trade-offs you get for having a not as focused solution. Well, what does he do? He does what many clients do, or many prospective clients do. He went with the cheaper option. Well, Alzay, I don't want to do that. I got these. Fine, sir. Fine. So he chooses option B. Totally up to him. So I make the recommendation, right? I recommend he work. I connect him with option B, web designer B. So he begins to talk to web designer B. Chooses not to work with web designer B. Chooses instead to work with web designer C, somebody else that he's found in his path of doing whatever it was he was doing. Totally fine. I'll hold no judgment. What happens about a month later? About a month later, he reaches out to me via email, and he's asking, he's telling me, now he has the sob story. Alzay, I've been working with this designer. This is who they are. This is what they do. And they keep sending me invoices. They keep offering me ad hoc work. They keep, there's always a change to be made. They're not 100% meeting my needs, blah, 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 blah. Right? Gives me the long sob story. I'm reading this email, and I'm laughing. Now, I'm not laughing at him. I'm laughing at the situation because I told him so. I warned him in advance. I told him what was required, what to do, how to do it, etc. He chose not to go with that route. Instead, he chose to do something else. Fine. He chose to go find an option that he thought was the best one for him. Fine. But now he's experiencing the pain of his novice status. In this world, he's not the expert, but he's trying to behave like one. You got to hear that from me. In this world, he's not the expert, but he's trying to behave like one. And because he's not an expert, he's making inefficient decisions, and he's experiencing the pain of his inefficient decisions. So now he's reaching out to me, wanting to whine and complain about how bad it hurts because it's not going his way. No kidding, right? You didn't follow the expert advice. Okay. So now let's fast forward. So now that was his journey. In that period, he hires a lady to work with him, more or less his business manager. Okay. So this business manager is responsible for helping him get these sports training camps off the ground. And she knows that sales and marketing is the first thing they've got to figure out. They got to figure out how they're going to advertise, promote, and close clients and get people into their camps. She already knows that. Great. Good for her. Good for them. All right. So we're having a little trouble with the video. Denise tells me. My apologies. I'll review the replay and we'll do better next time. Okay. Thank you, Denise, for letting me know. Where was I? Shoot, I got stalled. So business manager knows that sales and marketing is important. So he's hired this person, and he sends me an email. He sends me an email saying, "Hey, Alzay, I've hired someone. Please speak to her so that we can figure out if you should be working with us." Okay. So we're on the phone. This lady and I talked earlier this morning, actually. Had a great conversation. Good to talk to her. She's a smart person. She's intelligent. She's got a good idea of what's needed to go where they're trying to go. All sounds good to me. Here's the rub, though. The rub for where they are, and she owned up to this, by the way. So there's no bad talk. I'm not trying to down talk anybody. We agreed on this. The rub here is she said, we're trying to hire someone, whether it's a freelancer or a person or an agency, or the size doesn't matter to us. We're trying to hire someone who can not only give us the tactical deliverables like a website, but can also help us strategically plan for the future, right? So in other words, we don't just want a website or a Facebook page or a thing. We want to be able to use that thing to accomplish our goals. And we need someone who can think through using this deliverable to accomplish our goals. She's exactly right. I got it. Fully get it. I ask, hey, have you ever hired someone like that before? Have you ever hired someone that can do the strategy work and the execution work? She said, no, I haven't. She owned up to it very quickly. No, I haven't. I told her directly, hiring that kind of person is more difficult than it sounds. There are many people out there who will sell you a deliverable, a thing you got to have, website, Twitter page, Facebook ads, whatever. They'll sell you a thing. But whether or not that thing meets your goals is a whole different conversation. There are people out there who understand how your goals can be met, but they can't design web pages. They can't code. They can't do custom coding. They can't do logo design. They can't design pamphlets. They can't do that. So there are people who are good at one or the other, but finding people that are the mix of those two things is a lot more difficult than it sounds. And the people who are decent at those, the organizations, the companies that are decent at those, typically start at a very high budget. And they're probably going to just price you out immediately from the door. So I want to warn you, I was warning her, I want to warn you in advance that just because someone's got bright colors on their website, or they sound like they can do great work, or they've done great work in the past, doesn't mean that they can meet you where you are. She appreciated that. Okay. Let's move on. So Emily, number 4, please. Next one. So my point, or to summarize that conversation that I had this morning, I told her where I focus. I told her flat out, I'm a business coach. That's what I focus on. That's my place of expertise. All of my systems and processes are designed to further my business coaching efforts. I do not do the kind of work that you're talking about that you need done. In short, I turned down the job. I didn't say yes to the job. I didn't send her a proposal. I didn't negotiate on fees. We didn't talk about pricing at all. Wasn't necessary. When we had that conversation, I had to ask her the really important question so I could understand what she was trying to do on behalf of her client, of her team member. She explained. I told her what was needed to resolve what it was she was trying to resolve. We more or less agreed that was necessary, but I don't do the kind of work that she needs done. So I simply told her, can't help. Now I sent her a couple of follow-up things. Hey, you might want to look at this or look at that. And so she's welcome to do that. But I turned the opportunity down. Okay. Let's summarize that. Let's help that. If it's not obvious, here's some things where some points for you to take home from that story. Number 1, have meetings that make sense. So I sat down with this gentleman originally back in February, and we sat down, we chit-chat. I'm sure I was there for an hour, right? I chose to have that meeting. That was my decision. But I encourage my clients not to have meetings like that because in general, they're a waste of your time. Okay. I also, in the story I just told you, we communicated over time between February and now. We've had other conversations. None of them were in person. After the first one, none of the follow-ups were in person. In fact, our interactions have become more and more virtual the longer this story has gone on. So we sat down at first. We talked over the phone the next time we talked. I forgot, two weeks later, whatever it was, talking on the phone. Since that phone conversation, we've been talking via email for the last 3 months. Or whatever it's been, 2 months, 1 month, whatever it's been. We've been talking via email. So when he reached out to me, Alzay, my house was burning because the designer I chose doesn't work out, being invoiced, whatever. When he brought to me the house is burning story, he got an email back from me. He didn't get a phone call. We didn't set an emergency meeting at Starbucks. Our interactions have become more and more virtual with the increasing levels of pain he has received. The only reason why I was on the phone with him today is because he reached out to me specifically asking for a conversation because he wanted a specific thing done. And at that point, he had to schedule via my calendar. So there was no, what day could you meet? Nope. He got a link. His business manager filled it out, and that's how we got in conversation. Boundaries. Do you hear the boundaries? Boundaries. Because this situation can't eat up my time. He's not a paying client. He's not paying for services. Right? Okay. I don't want to get stuck there. Moving on. Next major idea here is I told him the truth up front about what was needed. I didn't teach him about digital marketing. I didn't explain the 19 ways he could have done it and impressed him with PowerPoints and slides. And I didn't do all that. I told him what was needed to do what needed to happen. And I laid that out as step by step as I could possibly do it. And then I lifted my hands. You decide what you want to do now, sir. You now have the roadmap to get home, to get to safety, from problem to solution. You've got the roadmap. What do you want to do? He chose to go his route. Now he experienced some pain. So now he's reaching out. He's got a new person, right? He's got a new person, and that person is going to help him execute ABC. All of that is fine. All that is fine. So they schedule a conversation, or she, his business manager, schedules a conversation with me. I am not pressed to take this assignment. I am not pressed to engage in this opportunity. I'm not pressed. And that's not some fancy, clever positioning, consulting, weird thing. It's factual. I know what I can do. I know what I can't. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not. I know what my business is now aligned to do and what it's not. So I don't have to take any, I know what's going on inside my business. I'm the expert. So when we have this dialogue, I don't feel any pressure to accept this arrangement. Rhetorically, I'm asking you, do you feel pressure? You got opportunities right now in front of you, right? Somewhere, there's a call you just had. There's a call you're about to have. There's a meeting you just had, a meeting that you're about to have. There's some opportunities in your pipeline. Do you feel pressure about taking on those opportunities? Because you need money, they'd be a nice client, this would be good, that would be good. And so you talk yourself into all of that. And by the time you start interacting with those people, you got this weird pressure in your belly. Because quietly, you want to close the sale. Truthfully, you want to get the revenue. And so that introduces all these other poor decisions. You end up taking on a bad client. Let me try to summarize all of that. Let me try to bring all of that home. In my own business, I do my very best to only accept clients that I know will get a win at the end. I do my very best to take on clients that I know that my program will solve a problem for them. And if I feel good about that, then I give them a chance to join the program. And then if they also want to join, then great. We can take off running. But I don't take on clients just to get the revenue, just to have a sale, or just to have a client, or just so I can do some work. I want to know as best I can on the front end that this client is going to end up experiencing some wins. If you can't do that with your clients, there becomes a challenge, right? There becomes a challenge. So if you get the money on the front end, but now you got to fulfill the work on the back end, and you feel the friction of it because you didn't take on the best client. You said yes to a client or to an engagement you should have said no to, and that's not their fault. That's your fault. You got to make a better choice on who you take in and who you don't. All right, cool beans. So Ahmed is here. Hello, Ahmed. Questions, comments, responses. I'll be quiet for a second, and I'll be quiet for a second. I was going to touch something, but I don't want Facebook Live to blow up on me again. So far, so good. So if you got a question, you got a comment, you got a response, type that in the chat. There's one more. There's one more comment. I think there's two big ideas that just came to my head. I'm gonna write them down. That I wanna share with you. All right, good. So far, so good. Okay. Point for today. One of many points, I guess, for today. I realize that you may very well be in the marketing business and you offer marketing services, but you are not just a marketer. The services you offer do not just include marketing. Just like this prospect was describing to me, they said, we don't just need someone to do the website or to do the individual thing. We need someone who can more or less tie those things together strategically, right? We need someone to give us some assets we can use. We need to be able to see the usefulness from those assets. Got it. Okay, got it. You've got to be able to give them a thing they can use. So even if you deliver a very clear deliverable, right? Here, hey, client, I write content. Here's your content. I do websites. Here's your website. I write email copy. There's your copy. I create ads. There are your ads. So even if what you offer is a deliverable, you have to help your client understand how to use the deliverable you just offered them. Many agencies push back on this. Many agencies want to say, it depends on what the client wants. We'll make whatever they want. We'll offer them whatever they want. It depends on how they want to use it. And again, I want to remind you in this conversation, who's the expert? You or the prospective client? I'm voting on you. So if you are the expert, you've got to present a picture for how to use the thing you make. And you've got to tell them that we make this thing in this way so you can use it for X. And if you don't have that conversation, then there's your challenge. You can't just be a marketer. You can't just offer the thing you offer. You can't just do the thing you do. You got to give them the thing in a way that's useful to them. If your client, if your prospect knew what to do, knew how to use it, if they understood their issue, they would not be talking to you. They'd be doing the thing already. They'd be doing it already. They're coming to you because they don't know how to put it all together. That's why the lady I spoke to this morning was coming to me. She didn't know how to put it all together. She knew some things were needed, but she needed some help putting it all together. That's the same, no matter what service you offer inside this marketing thing, your clients are coming to you with the same conversation. Let me try to land that plane to make sure it really makes sense. This is why the productized service is so important. Not only does it create finite time, scope, and price, but it's clear. It helps the client clearly understand what to do with what you've made. And we create this thing in a structured way so you can use it for that. I hope if that doesn't make sense, let me know. Denise has a question. I'm going to respond to Denise. Denise says, I think what presses many of us is money in all caps. I think what presses many of us is money. Can you address how to get over the money pressure to do what you're suggesting? Okay. First response I have to you, and I know Denise is not just speaking on her own behalf. I know that the money pressure is real, whether it's 10 grand, 100 grand, whatever. It's just nice to see that money hit your account, no matter what, $200, $200. Sometimes it's just nice to see the money hit your account. Okay. The money pressure you're currently feeling is keeping you from having better conversations. It's keeping you from finding better clients. It's keeping you from openly accepting the clients you should openly accept. The fear of letting this current opportunity walk away, that fear encourages you to bait the client into doing work with you. Client, don't leave. Please stay. Don't go over there. Please stay over here. So what do I have to say, or what do I have to do to keep you here with me? Do you need a discount? Do you need an expanding scope of services? Do you need me to offer you some other service that I know I'm not good at? Do you need me to make some ridiculous promise to you about results that'll grow out of the ground? What do I have to do, prospective client, so that you'll stay here with me and not leave? That becomes your narrative when money is sitting front of mind here. That becomes your narrative when money is sitting front of mind. What we do inside the program is we focus on limiting beliefs. And this is one of those very heavy limiting beliefs. You can't do the great thing because you're stuck with this other thing in your mind. You have to be okay. Bottom line is this. You have to be okay letting the opportunity in front of you walk away. There's no mystery to that. There's no sleight of hand with that. There's no marketing phrase to go along with that. Before you sit down and have that conversation, before you call them to interact, before you write that email and say, sure, we'll meet, or let's talk about that further. Before you do any of that stuff, you've got to settle in your own spirit. I'm okay letting this opportunity walk away. I'm okay with that. I know that $100,000 would be nice in this quarter. I know that $25,000 would be great to see, hit our account this month. I'd love to see that $2,000 come through this week. Man, I'd love to see that number hit our account. But if this is not the right opportunity, then we got to let it go. We have to let it go. Because if not, you will wrestle with clients you shouldn't be wrestling with. And there's nothing heavier than having a misplaced client inside your organization. They become needy. We know what happens after that. They just become incredibly high maintenance. You can't service them well. And because you can't service them well, they don't refer well. They don't talk about you loudly enough when they leave your organization. It doesn't work. It doesn't work out. And the reason why it doesn't work out is because you let your mental get in the way. So last thought on that, Denise, is even when you're talking to the exact same person, and you've already settled in your spirit, I'm okay with letting this opportunity walk away. When you're okay with that, and you adopt the language and the attitude and the positioning of that, it changes the dialogue that you're immediately having. In other words, that opportunity might not leave. That opportunity might change while you're still sitting there. They might say, well, you don't do this? Well, can you do that? Or they might say, well, tell me more about what you just told me, because maybe we can make that work. Sometimes the conversation shifts right there, but it shifts because you are okay letting it walk away. Hey, if this doesn't work, that's fine. If you don't want to do this, that's okay. If you don't want that fixed, that's all right. It's okay. Let's pack up and part ways. But that's a thing you got to do. It's a thing you got to do. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. It's not a marketing hack. It's not a sales hack. It's a thing. All right. Point made. David said, hey, Alzay, just started listening, and I had this happen many times. They have an idea or a hobby, but not a business. Right. And so sometimes that's also true, right? Sometimes you're talking to folks who are just not fully committed to having their problem solved. Sometimes you're talking to someone who is just not fully committed to having the problem solved. And that's okay. And you can tell them that. I don't think you're fully committed to this. I heard everything you said. And I know it all of it sounds great. And it could all work. But I don't think you're fully committed to this. So let's just part ways. Let's just kind of pack this up. Let's talk about something else. Move on. The second part of David's thought here. Sometimes people aren't fully committed. Sometimes the person you're talking to hasn't felt the pain yet. So it's kind of like having a tooth that should be removed, and you should go to the doctor. You should go to the dentist. You should go and have that tooth pulled. You should. Intellectually. But it's not until the pain begins, when the tooth starts throbbing and aching and you can't lay down, you can't go to sleep, you can't eat things. Now you've got real pain. And it's that pain that your service should be resolving for. It's that pain that you really need to understand for the person you're talking to. It's that pain. And some people just don't have pain. They might have a problem, bad tooth, but they don't have pain, the actual throbbing. You want to be in a world where you're actively solving for pain. Heavy. What I'm describing is heavy. But if someone you're talking to doesn't have pain, you got to let them walk away. It's okay. It's okay if they go. It's okay if they go. What the story I'm telling you, and I'll move on here. The story I'm telling you is, I told you February. Right now it is May. So it's been February, March, April, May. We're in our 4th month of interacting. He keeps coming back, right? He keeps coming back because he can't have this conversation anywhere else. Because I only want to talk to him about his pain. And these aren't long, drawn-out conversations. I've already made the point. It's more and more virtual. It's more and more via email. We don't do the whole, nope. No, no, I hope this makes sense. But listen. What I'm describing right now, the way you think about these conversations and the way you have these conversations is a thoughtful approach. It's not accidental. It's not Alzay's natural charisma. It's not so-and-so, somebody else's natural charisma. There's a thoughtful approach to the way I have conversations so that the clients I work with have a good deal for them and a good deal for my company. It's very intentional. And you got to slow down and think this through. So you're having better conversations with better potential opportunities, closing people at a higher rate, at a higher price point. But if you can't slow down and think this through, you're going to keep having challenges. You can try to borrow this template A, template B, template C. You're going to have to sit down and have a meeting with yourself about how this stuff rolls out. That is what the program I've designed is, and that's what it's for, is to help you design a company that works for you. And the sales process is a deliberate process that needs to live inside your company. How you have conversations matters. And you need a way of doing that. And you're not going to, I'm being blunt with you. You're not going to pick it up with these one-page downloads, with these, random webinars from people. You're just not going to be able to get it from osmosis or piecemeal it from 9 different experts. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to have to sit with it and design it. And what helps you, having a productized service gives you the opportunity to have more focused conversations. Having a productized service lets you clearly say, this is what we specialize in. This is what we solve for. This is how we solve for it. Do you want this fixed or not? That is when you have a productized service, it allows you to speak with that level of clarity and confidence. So if you're wrestling with these conversations, if it's just not working, if lead gen is not working, we need to be having a conversation. So I've said it. You can decide what you want to do from here. There's a button up, down, left, or right. If you're in the Facebook group, you can schedule a time right from this video. If you're not in the Facebook group, then there's a training you need to watch that explains the whole program. And from there, you can book time for us to speak, and then we can see if the program is a good fit. Great, wonderful. Okay. David says, they've got to have skin in the game. That's what I'm saying. So David's on his way. Great, right? So, yeah, I don't want to belabor the point, right? So if you've got a question, if you've got a thought, please post that. I'm going to begin to kind of wrap things up here. But if you've got something on your mind, a question, a comment, a concern, what have you, let her rip. So, and we'll use that to close out here. Okay, so Denise put in a new thought here. I'm going to read this quickly. How do we include advice and education about how to use the deliverables without being expected, asked, or pressured to provide additional service? Right. So basically, how do I explain what I do without the client kind of throwing more stuff in there? Right. Okay. For example, one thing I offer: copy for ads. Got it. Okay. So Denise offers for speed here. Denise offers Facebook ad copy, but Denise does not actually actively manage the campaigns. So she does the copy work, Facebook ad copy, but doesn't do the additional campaigns. So she's asking, so how do I offer just my copywriting services, essentially, without the client asking me to do all the other stuff? Some of what you're asking, Denise, was laid out in today's Facebook Live. And I've also responded very, very directly already. You tell them, this is what I do, A, B, and C. I don't do D, E, F, and G. I'm happy to do A, B, and C. I'm really good at A, B, and C. But I don't do D, E, F, and G. That's just not what my company focuses on. Totally acceptable. Now, here's where I bet, Denise, if I go one level beneath that, here's where you're having trouble. You're not quite sure what problem that solves for your client. You're thinking about that these are the services that I want to offer. This is what I want to do. And how do I explain what I want to do in a way where they say yes to what I want to do? That's backwards. That you are going to have a really hard time having those kinds of conversations. You've got to become more aware of the problem your specific client has. And from that problem, that copywriting service better solve for it. If they have a problem and your copywriting service doesn't solve for it, then there's your issue. What you're offering doesn't fix the issue, doesn't fix the problem. Ta-da! So what they're asking for is what might actually solve their problem. This gets this gets heavy here, right? And this is why I have a program. But that's kind of the first layer of that, Denise, right? Is I've said it, so I don't want to belabor. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Looks like so far so good. Appreciate everybody for hanging in with the technology. Final call for questions. Doesn't look like there are. So we're out of here. Good seeing everybody. Good chatting with you. See you next week. Best of luck. Talk to you soon.